My future bride announced that she was going to a girls' party where there would be other men and told me not to worry. So I just said okay, and threw my own bachelor party with my friends, inviting lots of hot women. My name is Blake, and I'm 31 years old. This story happened 6 months ago, and honestly, I'm still processing everything that went down. I was engaged to what I thought was an amazing woman, but spoiler alert, she definitely wasn't. Let me give you some quick background on myself first. I work as a commercial real estate broker and make decent money plus commissions. I've been fortunate enough to own my house outright and drive a paid-off Ram pickup truck. I'm not wealthy by any means, but I'm definitely comfortable financially. My buddy Connor always jokes that I'm perfect husband material because I got my life together early, which I guess is fair to say. Connor has been my best friend since high school, and he's the kind of guy who owns his own motorcycle repair shop, is built like a linebacker, and has absolutely zero filter whatsoever. The important thing you need to know about Connor is that he saw through Victoria's nonsense from day one, but I'll get to that. Victoria is my ex-fiancée. She's 25 years old and works as a social media coordinator for some startup company. She makes around $35,000 a year and lives in an apartment that her father pays for. When we first started dating about 2 years ago, she seemed incredibly sweet, funny, and down to earth. She had this whole package thing going for her that I found really attractive. But looking back now, there were red flags absolutely everywhere that I just chose to ignore. Like how she would always conveniently forget her wallet whenever we went out to dinner or for drinks. Or how she would constantly hint about expensive things she wanted, dropping not-so-subtle suggestions about jewelry, designer handbags, or fancy vacations. And then there was the way she would get genuinely upset if I suggested we do something that didn't cost a fortune, like cooking dinner at home or going for a hike instead of an expensive restaurant. Connor called her a gold digger right from the start. But I wasn't thinking clearly back then. I was caught up in what I thought was love, and I dismissed his concerns as him being overprotective or maybe even jealous that I was in a serious relationship. The engagement happened about 10 months ago, and that's when things really started to show Victoria's true colors. I spent $12,000 on an engagement ring, not cheap by any standards. But here's what really bothered me. She posted a picture of it on Instagram within literal minutes of me proposing. The caption read, "He went to Tiffany, blessed future Mrs. Victoria." Not a single mention of being excited to marry me, not a word about our future together, not even my name. Just showing off the diamond like it was some kind of trophy she'd won. Wedding planning turned into a complete nightmare almost immediately. Everything had to be absolutely perfect, which in Victoria's mind meant expensive. The venue she insisted on was $8,000. Her dress? $3,000? The photographer she wanted was $4,000, and don't even get me started on the flowers at $2,000. I was looking at a total wedding cost of around $40,000, and Victoria was contributing exactly $0 to any of it. When I asked her about helping with the costs, she explained that traditionally, the groom's family pays for the wedding. Her parents definitely have money. They pay for her apartment and car after all. But apparently their tradition involves being cheap when it comes to their daughter's wedding expenses. Connor kept telling me to run from this situation, but I was already in too deep emotionally and financially. I felt like I'd invested so much time and money into this relationship that backing out would mean admitting I'd made a huge mistake. Looking back, that's exactly the kind of sunk cost fallacy that keeps people trapped in bad situations. Then came the night that changed absolutely everything. We were sitting at this fancy steakhouse downtown, going over final wedding details like we did every Tuesday night. I was stressed about money. She was stressed about bridesmaid dress coordination. Just our normal dynamic at that point. I remember sitting there cutting into my $45 ribeye steak, thinking about how I was going to have to work overtime for the next several months just to pay for this wedding. That's when Victoria dropped what felt like a nuclear bomb on our conversation. "So I figured out my bachelorette party plans," she said casually, scrolling through her phone like she was discussing the weather instead of delivering news that would change everything between us. "Cool, babe. Miami with the girls, right?" I responded, assuming she'd stick with the typical bachelorette party format we'd discussed before. "Atlantic City, actually, but not with the girls," she replied, still not looking up from her phone screen. I put my fork down immediately. Something about her tone and the way she was avoiding eye contact set off every alarm bell in my head. "What do you mean, not with the girls?" I asked, trying to keep my voice level. "I'm going with Nathan," she said, finally looking up at me with this expression like she'd just told me she was getting her hair done, not planning to spend her bachelorette party with another man. Nathan was her supposedly gay best friend from college, and I use the word supposedly very deliberately here. This guy is 6'2", looks like he could be a fitness model, and I've caught him checking out Victoria more times than I can count. Every time I brought up my concerns about their relationship, Victoria would immediately shut me down, saying I was being paranoid and judgmental about his sexuality. She'd make me feel like some kind of homophobic monster for even questioning their friendship. "Just you and Nathan for your bachelorette party?" I asked, trying to process what I was hearing. "It's going to be so fun," she replied with genuine excitement in her voice. "He knows all the best clubs in Atlantic City, and we're staying at the Borgata for a whole week." A week? An entire week in Atlantic City with Nathan? I sat there for a moment, trying to figure out how to respond to what was clearly an insane situation. "Victoria, that's not really how bachelorette parties work," I said, attempting to use logic and reason. She finally looked up from her phone with this annoyed expression. "Says who? It's my party. I can do whatever I want. Nathan and I have been planning this forever." "You've been planning an Atlantic City trip with another guy forever? While we've been engaged this whole time?" The pieces were starting to fall into place, and I didn't like the picture they were forming. "Don't be dramatic, Blake. Nathan is gay," she said with that dismissive tone she used whenever she wanted to end a conversation. "No, he's not, Victoria." "Yes, he is. Victoria, I've seen the way he looks at you. That man wants you, and you know it." Her face immediately went red with what looked like a combination of anger and embarrassment. "You're being disgusting and judgmental. Nathan is my best friend and he's gay. And that's final." Right at that moment, our waiter came by asking if everything was okay with our meals, probably because we were clearly causing a scene at this point. Victoria smiled at him like nothing was wrong and ordered another Diet Coke, as if we weren't in the middle of what was clearly becoming a relationship-ending argument. I decided to try a different approach. "How would you feel if I went to Atlantic City for a week with Rachel?" I asked her directly. "Rachel is a woman from my work who's definitely attracted to me. Nothing's ever happened between us, but the tension is obviously there, and Victoria knows it." "That's completely different," she replied immediately. "How is it different exactly?" "Because Rachel actually wants to sleep with you. And Nathan is gay," she insisted again, like repeating it would somehow make it true. That's when Victoria decided to play what she clearly thought was her trump card. "Blake, if you can't trust me, then maybe we shouldn't get married." In that moment, I realized she was completely serious about this Atlantic City trip. Nothing I could say or do was going to change her mind. She was going to spend a week in Atlantic City with Nathan whether I liked it or not, and she was willing to threaten our entire relationship to make it happen. "You know what?" I said to her, leaning back in my chair. "You're absolutely right. Have fun in Atlantic City." She smiled like she'd just won some kind of victory. "Thank you, babe. I knew you'd understand eventually." I smiled right back at her. "Oh, I understand perfectly." But what Victoria didn't realize was that I was already planning my revenge. That night, I couldn't sleep at all. Victoria was passed out next to me, probably dreaming about Atlantic City and Nathan's abs, while I lay there staring at the ceiling. I kept replaying that smug look on her face when she thought she'd won the argument at dinner. The more I thought about it, the angrier I became. Around 2 in the morning, I couldn't take it anymore and texted Connor, "You awake, man?" "Yeah, bro, working late on a bike, what's up?" He responded almost immediately. "Victoria's going to Atlantic City with Nathan for her bachelorette party. Just the two of them for a whole week." My phone rang within seconds. Connor's voice was loud enough that I had to quickly leave the bedroom before Victoria woke up. "What the hell?" Connor's voice carried that mix of disbelief and anger that only a best friend can have when someone messes with you. "Yeah, man, apparently it's totally normal because Nathan is gay." "Gay my ass. That dude's been trying to get with your girl since day one. I've been telling you this for months." "I know, but every time I bring it up, she calls me judgmental and makes me feel like some kind of bigot." "So what are you going to do? Please tell me you're not actually letting her go." "Oh, I'm letting her go all right, but I'm going to make sure she regrets it." Connor was quiet for a second, and then I could hear the grin in his voice. "I like where this is going. What do you need from me?" This is exactly why Connor's my best friend. No judgment, no questions about whether I was overreacting, just pure loyalty when I needed it most. "Remember Brooke, your ex from last year? The bartender with all the tattoos?" "Yeah, what about her?" Didn't you say she always had a thing for me? Connor started laughing his ass off. Man, Brooke asked me at least 3 times if you had a brother. She definitely thinks you're attractive. Why? I explained my entire plan to him in detail. Connor was completely on board with it from the start. This is genius, dude. Brooke's going to love this. She's all about drama and revenge plots, plus she absolutely hates entitled women like Victoria. We talked for another hour, working out all the logistics and details. By the time I finally went back to bed, I was actually excited about what was going to happen. For the first time in months, I felt like I had some control over the situation. The next morning, Victoria was already on the phone making calls about her Atlantic City trip, acting like our argument the night before had never happened. I could hear her in the kitchen talking to Nathan about spa appointments and club reservations. She'd already booked everything without even checking if the dates worked with my schedule or asking if I had any input on the timing. "Morning, babe," I said, pouring myself a cup of coffee and trying to sound as normal as possible. "Oh, good. You're up," she replied without looking away from her phone. "Nathan found this amazing suite at the Borgata. It has a private hot tub on the balcony." A suite with a hot tub, just the two of them. "Sounds romantic," I said sarcastically. "It's going to be so relaxing," she continued, completely missing my tone. "We need this after all the wedding stress." "We need this." Like it was a couple's trip instead of supposedly a bachelorette party. "Well, if you're going to Atlantic City, I should probably plan my bachelor party too," I said, testing the waters. "Oh, right. Are you doing the usual thing with the guys?" she asked absently, still scrolling through her phone. "Actually, I was thinking something different. More like a cabin weekend up in the mountains. Connor's organizing the whole thing." "That sounds fun, babe." "Very you," she said dismissively, then went right back to her phone call with Nathan. They were talking about dinner reservations and show tickets like I wasn't even there anymore. Meanwhile, I texted Connor, "It's showtime, brother." Connor called Brooke that same afternoon. According to him, this is exactly how the conversation went down. "Brooke, you still think Blake's attractive, right?" "Your engaged friend Blake?" she asked suspiciously. "Connor, I'm not helping you break up a relationship. What if I told you his fiancée is going to Atlantic City alone with another dude for her bachelorette party? Are you serious right now?" "Dead serious. And Blake's planning a little payback. You interested in helping out?" "Hell yes, I'm interested," she said immediately. "What do you need me to do?" Brooke was absolutely perfect for this plan. She's genuinely attractive, works as a bartender so she's comfortable around people, has zero patience for cheating or gold-digging behavior, and she legitimately thought I was good-looking. This made the whole thing believable instead of forced. Connor set up a group chat with me, him, Brooke, and a few other friends from our circle. We started planning my bachelor party weekend, making sure to include lots of details about how awesome Brooke was being by helping organize everything for us. Brooke is handling all the food for the cabin trip since she's basically a chef in her spare time. Brooke knows the owner of the lake house, so we got a great deal on the rental. Thank God for Brooke stepping up when everyone else was busy with work. I also started following Brooke on Instagram and liking her pictures regularly. Nothing obvious or over the top, just the kind of attention that an engaged guy definitely shouldn't be giving to another woman, especially an attractive one. Victoria noticed almost immediately. "Why are you liking Brooke's bikini pics?" she asked that evening, her voice carrying that accusatory tone I was getting so familiar with. "What? Oh, Connor's ex? I was just scrolling through my feed. I didn't really pay attention to what I was liking. It's weird, Blake. Really weird." "How is it weird exactly? She's helping plan my bachelor party. I'm just being nice." "It's inappropriate," she said firmly, crossing her arms. I looked at her dead in the eye. "Inappropriate how? She's just a friend." "She's Connor's ex-girlfriend, Blake. So Nathan is your friend, and you're going to Atlantic City with him. What's the difference between those situations?" "Nathan is gay, and Brooke's just a friend. So we're both hanging out with friends for our parties." "Seems fair to me," I said as calmly as possible. Victoria got that look on her face like she wanted to argue, but couldn't figure out how to do it without being a complete hypocrite. It was absolutely beautiful to watch her realize she was trapped by her own logic. That night, Connor came over for dinner to plan the bachelor party in more detail. We made sure to talk loud enough for Victoria to hear from the kitchen, where she was pretending not to listen while doing dishes. "Brooke is so cool for doing this, man," Connor said, his voice carrying just the right amount of enthusiasm. "Most girls would be weird about hanging out with their ex's friends for a whole weekend like this. Yeah, she's awesome. Really chill and really fun. I replied, making sure my voice had that appreciative tone that would definitely get under Victoria's skin. Blake's lucky she agreed to help out, Connor continued. She was excited about it too. Said it sounded way more fun than her usual weekend plans. She's bringing her famous pulled pork too, and that potato salad she makes. Remember that potato salad from last summer? Oh yeah, I remember it extremely well, I said, with maybe a little too much enthusiasm. Blake, you're going to love Brooke's cooking. From the kitchen, I heard Victoria announce loudly, I'm going to Sophie's tonight. I'll be back tomorrow. The way she slammed the cabinet door told me everything I needed to know about how well our plan was working. Connor grinned at me when she left. Hook, line, and sinker, bro. She's panicking already and we've barely started. Good. Maybe now she'll understand how I felt about the Nathan situation. Or maybe she'll finally show you who she really is, he said. And he was absolutely right on both counts. Victoria came back the next day with reinforcements. Her sister Sophie and their mom had apparently held an emergency meeting about my inappropriate friendship with Brooke, and Victoria was armed with their collective wisdom. Blake, we need to talk, she said as soon as she walked through the door, her voice carrying that serious tone that meant I was about to get lectured. What's up, babe? I asked as innocently as possible. I talked to Sophie and Mom about this Brooke situation. What Brooke situation exactly? Don't play dumb with me. You're being inappropriate with another woman. I sat down on the couch and patted the spot next to me. Victoria, come here, let's talk about this properly. She sat down but kept her distance from me, which should have been red flag number 847 that I should have noticed way earlier in our relationship. Babe, Brooke is helping plan my bachelor party just like Nathan is helping plan your bachelorette party. I don't see the problem here. Nathan is gay, Blake. How many times do I have to tell you this? And Brooke is Connor's ex. She's off limits. Same thing then, it's not different. It's not the same thing at all. Why not exactly? Because Nathan and I have never had any romantic history. I pulled out my phone and showed her some old Facebook photos I'd found earlier. Really? Because here's a picture of you and Nathan kissing at a party junior year of college. Her face went completely white. I'd done my homework and it was paying off beautifully. That was just a drunken kiss, Blake. It didn't mean anything at all. So you lied when you said you never had romantic history. I didn't lie, it was one kiss. One kiss is more romantic history than Brooke and I have ever had. Victoria was getting visibly frustrated now. She wasn't used to me calling out her nonsense like this, and she was struggling to maintain her usual control over the narrative. Fine, cancel your bachelor party then. Why would I cancel my bachelor party? Because I'm not comfortable with you spending a weekend with another woman like that. But you're comfortable spending a week with another man? For the last time, Nathan is gay. Then prove it. What do you mean, prove it? Prove Nathan is gay. Show me a picture of him with a boyfriend. Show me him talking about men he's attracted to. Show me literally any evidence that he's gay besides your word, which clearly isn't reliable. She couldn't do it, of course, because Nathan isn't gay, and we both knew it deep down. I don't have to prove anything to you. Then I don't have to prove anything to you either. I'm going on my bachelor party with Brooke, and you're going to Atlantic City with Nathan. Seems fair to me. That's when Victoria decided to play her nuclear option. If you go on this trip with her, I'm calling off the wedding completely. I looked at her for a long moment, letting the weight of her threat sink in. Then I realized something important. I wasn't scared of that threat anymore. You know what, Victoria? That's probably for the best, actually. What did you just say? We're clearly not compatible at all. You want to go party in Atlantic City with a guy who wants you, and you're mad that I'm having a cookout with friends at a lake house. Those aren't the same things at all, and if you can't see that difference, then maybe we shouldn't get married. She started backtracking immediately, realizing she'd overplayed her hand. Wait, I didn't mean that. I don't want to call off the wedding. Then don't threaten me with it. I don't like this Brooke girl. You've never even met Brooke. I don't need to meet her. I can tell she's trouble from her Instagram. And there it was. The real Victoria coming out at last. Connor was right all along. She was just a mean girl in expensive clothes, judging other women based on their social media presence. Wow, okay. So now we're judging women for posting pictures in bikinis? I'm not judging anyone, Blake. I just think it's inappropriate for my fiancé to be looking at other women's bodies like that. But it's appropriate for you to go to Atlantic City with a man who's seen your body? Nathan is gay, she screamed, completely losing her composure. We went in circles for another 2 hours. By the end, I was completely exhausted, and she was crying those manipulative tears that she always used when she wasn't getting her way. She kept switching between anger and tears, trying every manipulation tactic in her arsenal to get me to back down. "I can't believe you're choosing another woman over me," she sobbed dramatically. "I'm not choosing anyone over anyone. I'm asking for equal treatment here." "It's not equal at all. Nathan is like a brother to me." "Then Brooke is like a sister to me." "That's different, and you know it." "How is it different exactly?" Because it just is." "Great argument, Victoria. Really convincing." That night, she called her mom. I could hear her on the phone in the bedroom, crying and complaining about how unreasonable I was being. Her mom was apparently taking her side completely, because I heard Victoria say, "I know, right? He's being so controlling and possessive." It was fascinating to listen to her completely reframe the situation to make herself look like the victim. The next morning, Connor texted me with an update that made everything even better. "Brooke's in. She thinks your fiancé sounds like a nightmare and wants to help take her down a peg." "What did you tell her exactly?" I texted back. "Everything, man. The Atlantic City trip, the manipulation, the gold-digging behavior. Brooke is ready for war, dude." War might be the right word for this. Oh, it definitely is. Brooke's bringing her A-game for this. Hair, makeup, outfits, the whole thing. She wants Victoria to see exactly what she's losing. That afternoon, Brooke showed up at Connor's garage while I was there helping him work on a motorcycle. She looked absolutely incredible. Tight jeans, crop top, hair, and makeup done perfectly. She was definitely dressed to make an impression on everyone, especially if any photos ended up on social media. "Blake," she said, giving me a hug that lasted just a little too long to be purely platonic. "I'm so excited about this weekend. It's going to be amazing." We spent an hour planning the details of the bachelor party, while Connor strategically took pictures and videos for social media. Brooke was touchy, flirty, and made it very clear that she was excited to spend time with me specifically, not just the group. "I can't wait to cook for you," she said, touching my arm. "Connor's told me so much about your favorite foods." "Brooke makes the best ribs you've ever had in your life," Connor added for effect. "Blake, you're gonna love them." "Stop it, you guys, you're making me blush," Brooke laughed, touching my arm again. Connor posted a video of us laughing together with the caption, "Bachelor party planning in full swing. Blake's so lucky to have friends like Brooke stepping up to make this weekend perfect." My phone started buzzing immediately. Victoria had seen it and was losing her mind. "Who the hell is that?" she texted. "That's Brooke. I told you about her." "You didn't tell me she looked like a model." "She's a bartender, Victoria. She has to look good for tips." "I don't want you going anywhere with her. And I don't want you going to Atlantic City with Nathan." "Guess we're both disappointed then." She hung up on me immediately. 20 minutes later, she called back. "I'm coming to pick you up right now. We're going to dinner and we're figuring this out." "Can't tonight, babe. Connor and I are planning more bachelor party stuff." "With her? With Brooke?" "Yes, she's part of the planning committee." The silence on the other end was deafening. Then, "I hate you." Click. She hung up again. Connor was grinning like an idiot. "Dude, she is losing her mind completely." "Good. Maybe now she'll understand how I felt about the Nathan situation." "Or maybe she'll finally show you who she really is," he said, and he was absolutely right on both counts. The next few days were incredibly tense around the house. Victoria barely spoke to me except to make snide comments about Brooke or demand that I cancel my bachelor party. When I wouldn't budge on either front, she started escalating her behavior in ways that showed me exactly who she really was. First, she accidentally deleted Brooke's contact information from my phone. When I called her out on it, she claimed it was an accident and that my phone had been acting weird lately. Right? Because phones just randomly delete specific contacts on their own. Then she started posting what I can only describe as thirst traps on Instagram. Bikini pics, gym selfies, low-cut tops. This was stuff she'd never posted before in her entire life. The captions were passive-aggressive as hell too, when your man doesn't appreciate what he has. Some people don't know quality when they see it. Upgrade yourself, not your woman. That last one really annoyed me because it was clearly about money. Like she was reminding everyone that she was expensive and high maintenance, as if that was somehow a good thing that I should be grateful for. Connor showed me screenshots of her DMs too. Apparently, she'd been messaging him asking about Brooke's history and whether she'd always been trouble. Connor told her to leave him alone, which just made her even more angry and desperate. But the real nuclear moment came 3 days before her Atlantic City trip. I was at work when I got a call from an unknown number. Is this Blake Morrison? Yeah, who's this? This is someone from Prestige Jewelers. I'm calling about the engagement ring you purchased. Your fiancé is here asking about upgrading to a larger stone, and she wanted me to call you about financing options. I almost dropped the phone right there. She's there right now? Yes, sir. She's looking at a 3-carat upgrade. The difference would be about $18,000. She said you discussed it, but wanted me to call you directly about payment options. $18,000 on top of the $12,000 I'd already spent on a ring. My head was spinning. Listen to me very carefully, I said. Do not sell her anything. Do not let her upgrade anything. I did not authorize this, and I'm not paying for it. Oh my. She seemed very confident that you'd approve this purchase. She lied to you. Don't let her leave with anything that's not already paid for. Of course, sir. I'll handle this discreetly. I hung up and immediately called Victoria. It went straight to voicemail. Then I called again and again. Finally, she picked up. What, Blake? I'm busy right now. I know where you are, Victoria. I just got off the phone with the jeweler. Silence on the other end. You want to explain why you're trying to upgrade your engagement ring without telling me? I was going to surprise you, she said, her voice taking on that fake sweet tone she used when she was caught doing something wrong. The new ring is so much more beautiful. For $18,000. Victoria, it's an investment. Diamonds hold their value. Are you out of your mind? We're already spending 40 grand on a wedding, and you want to add another 18 for a bigger rock? Other guys would be happy to buy their fiancé a nice ring. I already bought you a nice ring. A $12,000 ring. That was 10 months ago, Blake. I've been wearing it for 10 months. People are starting to notice it's not that big. I sat in my car in the parking lot, trying to process what I'd just heard. She was embarrassed by a $12,000 ring. She wanted me to spend more money so she could show off to her friends. Victoria, go home. We'll talk about this tonight. I'm not done here yet. The jeweler is showing me some beautiful options. If you buy anything else, I'm not paying for it. Fine, maybe Nathan will. She hung up on me again. I sat there for another 10 minutes, just staring at my phone in disbelief. Maybe Nathan will. Nathan doesn't make that kind of money unless they'd been planning this together. Unless Atlantic City wasn't just a bachelorette party. It was an exit strategy. That's when it all clicked into place. The expensive wedding I was paying for, the ring upgrade she wanted, the week in Atlantic City with another man. She was bleeding me dry before leaving me for Nathan. I called Connor immediately. Man, what's up? You sound messed up. I told him about the ring situation in detail. How Victoria had gone behind my back to try to upgrade her engagement ring for $18,000, and how she'd told the jeweler that Nathan would pay for it if I wouldn't. Dude, she's robbing you blind. This is some next-level gold-digging stuff. I know, and I think Nathan's in on it. What do you mean exactly? Think about it, Connor. She gets me to pay for an expensive wedding, upgrades her ring on my dime, then goes to Atlantic City with Nathan and doesn't come back. She keeps the ring, he gets the girl, and I get stuck with all the bills. Connor was quiet for a moment, processing what I was saying. You really think she'd do that to you? A week ago I would have said no, but after today? Yeah, I think she absolutely would. So what are you going to do about it? I'm going to beat her to the punch. What's the plan, man? Come over tonight and bring Brooke. It's time for the nuclear option. The next morning I started making phone calls. Venue? Cancelled. Caterer? Cancelled. Photographer? Cancelled. I lost about $6,000 in deposits, but considering I was about to save $34,000, it was worth every penny. I also went to the bank and had Victoria removed from my accounts completely. That's when I discovered she'd been spending way more than I'd realized. $800 at Nordstrom last week, $400 at Sephora, $600 at some fancy spa, all on my credit card without asking permission or even telling me about it. When Victoria got home that afternoon, I was sitting at the kitchen table with printouts of all the cancellation confirmations spread out in front of me. "What's all this?" she asked, dropping her purse on the floor. "Wedding's off," I said calmly. She just stood there for a moment, staring at me. "What did you just say?" "You heard me. I canceled everything. The venue, the food, the flowers, all of it." "You can't do that, Blake. People have already bought plane tickets. I sent out invitations months ago. Should have thought about that before you tried to spend 18 grand behind my back." I told you that was going to be a surprise. Victoria, sit down. We need to talk. She sat down across from me, her face already getting red with anger. I know what you're doing, I said calmly. You're planning to leave me for Nathan after the wedding, after I've paid for everything. That's insane. Where would you get an idea like that? Maybe because you told the jeweler that Nathan would pay for your ring upgrade. She went completely white. I didn't mean it like that at all. How did you mean it then? I was upset. I said something stupid. Or you said something true. Either way, we're done, Victoria. You can stay here until you find somewhere else to live, but the engagement is over. She started crying those fake tears again. Blake, please, I love you. I don't want Nathan, I want you. Funny way of showing it. I'll cancel Atlantic City right now. I'll call Nathan and cancel everything. Too late for that, Victoria. You showed me who you really are. People make mistakes, Blake. I can change, I promise. Maybe, but I'm not sticking around to find out. She cried for another hour, switching between begging and anger. She called me every name in the book, accused me of being controlling, possessive, and unreasonable. Finally, she went to pack a bag and stormed out. You'll regret this, she screamed from the driveway. Good luck finding anyone else who will put up with your boring self. Connor came over an hour later with pizza. So it's done then? It's done. She'll probably crash at her sister's place until she figures out her next steps. And Atlantic City? Oh, we're still going to Atlantic City. Brooke and I are going to have the time of our lives. This is going to be epic, man. 2 days later, Brooke and I flew to Atlantic City. First-class tickets, because hell, I had $34,000 of wedding money to spend. We got a suite at the Borgata with ocean views and dinner reservations at Gordon Ramsay's restaurant. If Victoria wanted to play the money game, I'd show her what real money looked like when it was spent on someone who actually appreciated it. Brooke was the perfect companion for this trip. She was funny, attractive, didn't expect me to pay for everything, and was genuinely fun to be around. We went to shows, hit the casinos, ate at amazing restaurants. Everything an Atlantic City trip should be. On Saturday night, we were at a rooftop bar when Brooke pointed across the room. Holy crap, Blake, isn't that your ex? I looked where she was pointing, and sure enough, there was Victoria. But she wasn't with Nathan at all. She was with some older guy in an expensive suit, sitting way too close to him and letting him touch her leg in a way that was definitely not platonic. Who the hell is that? Brooke asked. No idea, but it's definitely not Nathan. We watched for a while. The guy was clearly rich. Nice watch, expensive clothes, ordering top-shelf everything without even looking at prices. Victoria was all over him, laughing at his jokes, touching his arm, displaying classic gold digger behavior in action. Then Nathan showed up, and he did not look happy at all. We couldn't hear what they were saying from across the room, but it was obviously an argument. Nathan was gesturing angrily. The rich guy looked confused about what was happening, and Victoria looked like she wanted to disappear into the floor. Oh my God, Brooke said, realizing what we were witnessing. She's playing them both against each other. Against each other, exactly. She's got Nathan thinking they're going to be together, and she's working this other guy for money. It was absolutely beautiful to watch. Victoria's master plan was falling apart in real time right in front of us. Nathan stormed off looking pissed. The rich guy threw some money on the table and left, looking disgusted. And Victoria sat there alone, looking completely devastated. Should we go say hi? Brooke asked with an evil grin. Hell yes, we should. We walked over to Victoria's table. She looked up and her face went through about 6 different emotions in rapid succession. Surprise, anger, jealousy, embarrassment, panic, and finally resignation. Blake, what are you doing here? Same thing you are. Enjoying Atlantic City with a friend. I put my arm around Brooke, and she leaned into me perfectly, smiling at Victoria sweetly. Victoria, this is Brooke. Brooke, this is my ex-fiancée Victoria. Nice to finally meet you, Brooke said in the sweetest voice possible. Blake's told me so much about you. Victoria looked between us, clearly trying to process what was happening. Are you two having a great time? I asked conversationally. How's your trip going? Where's Nathan exactly? He stepped away for a minute. And your other friend? The guy with the expensive watch? Her face went red. I don't know what you're talking about. Right, well, we should get going. We have dinner reservations at Hell's Kitchen. Brooke's never been there. I'm so excited, Brooke gushed convincingly. Blake knows all the best places. We left Victoria sitting there alone at her table. I felt bad for about 2 seconds, then remembered the $18,000 ring upgrade and got over it completely. The rest of the trip was absolutely perfect. Brooke and I had amazing chemistry, not romantic, but genuine friendship. She was everything Victoria wasn't: independent, funny, and real. She paid for her own drinks, didn't expect expensive gifts, and was actually fun to be around without constantly demanding attention or validation. When we got back home, I drove Brooke to her apartment to drop her off. "Thanks for an amazing weekend," she said as we sat in my driveway. "I had so much fun." "Thank you for helping me dodge a bullet. That girl is crazy, Blake. You're so much better off without her." "I'm starting to realize that." She leaned over and kissed my cheek. "Call me if you ever want to hang out as friends. I know you need time to process everything that's happened." "I will. And Brooke, you're good people. So are you, Blake. Don't let anyone tell you different." I should have known Victoria wouldn't go quietly. The first sign of trouble came Monday morning when I got to work. My boss called me into his office with a concerned look on his face. "Blake, we need to talk. I got a very strange phone call this morning." "What kind of phone call?" I asked, though I had a sinking feeling I already knew. "Someone claiming to be your ex-fiancé said you've been embezzling money from the company to pay for gambling debts." I nearly fell out of my chair. "She said what?" "Obviously, I don't believe it, but I have to follow protocol. Can you provide documentation of your recent large expenses?" Luckily, I had everything organized. Flight receipts, hotel confirmations, restaurant bills, all legitimate expenses, all paid with my own money. My boss looked everything over and cleared me within an hour. "Blake, I don't know what kind of drama you're dealing with, but this woman seems genuinely unstable. You might want to consider getting a restraining order." He wasn't wrong about that assessment. Over the next few days, Victoria ramped up her crazy behavior to levels I didn't think were possible. She posted on Facebook that I'd stolen her life savings and abandoned her in Atlantic City. Complete lies on both counts. She never had any savings to begin with, and I certainly didn't abandon anyone. She called my parents and told them I was addicted to gambling and had been cheating on her with multiple women. My mom called me crying, asking if I needed help with a gambling addiction. I had to spend an hour explaining the real situation and showing her proof of what actually happened. She contacted my landlord and claimed I was running illegal activities out of my house. That one backfired spectacularly because my landlord has known me for years and told her to leave him alone or he'd call the police. But the worst escalation was when she got Nathan involved in her revenge campaign. Connor called me Wednesday night, laughing his ass off. "Man, you're not going to believe this." "What now?" "Nathan just showed up at my shop." "What? Why would he do that?" "Apparently Victoria told him that you and Brooke destroyed her life and he wants to settle this like men." "Are you serious right now?" "Dead serious. This fool rolls up in his BMW, looking like he's about to challenge you to a duel or something." "What did you tell him?" "I told him if he had a problem with you, he could come to your house and ring the doorbell like an adult. Then I told him to get his fancy car off my property before I had it towed." Man, this is getting completely out of hand. It gets better. Guess what else Victoria's been telling people? I'm afraid to ask. She's pregnant with your kid. I dropped my phone on the floor. "What did you just say?" "Yeah, man. She's telling everyone you got her pregnant and then abandoned her for another woman." "That's impossible, Connor. We haven't been intimate in like 6 weeks. I know that. You know that. But her family doesn't know that. This was seriously bad news. Pregnancy claims were serious business, especially to my traditional Catholic parents, who would be horrified if they thought I'd abandoned a pregnant woman." "Connor, what am I going to do?" "Well, first you're going to demand a paternity test. Then you're going to expose her for the lying psycho she is." "How exactly do I do that?" "Leave that to me, man. I got an idea." Thursday morning, Connor called me with an update that made everything even more interesting. "Operation Expose Victoria is a go. Meet me at Brooke's place tonight at 7. "What's the plan, Connor?" "Just trust me and bring your laptop." I showed up at Brooke's apartment that evening to find Connor grinning like a kid on Christmas morning. "All right, boys," Brooke said, opening the door. Connor filled me in on the plan. "This is going to be epic." "What plan? Someone want to fill me in?" Connor pulled out his phone. "Nathan came by my shop again today, this time with a different story." "Different how?" "Well, it turns out Victoria isn't just telling people she's pregnant with your baby. She's also telling Nathan it's his baby." I stared at him in complete disbelief. "She's claiming to be pregnant by both of us. Gets better than that." Brooke did some digging and found out Victoria was also telling that rich guy in Atlantic City she was pregnant. She's basically running a pregnancy scam on multiple guys, Brooke added, nodding. I have screenshots of her DMs with the Atlantic City guy. She was asking him for money for prenatal care. Holy crap, this is absolutely insane. But here's the best part, Connor continued. Nathan's not as dumb as he looks. He's starting to figure out that Victoria's playing games and he's mad about it. How mad exactly? Mad enough to help us expose her? Connor showed me text messages between him and Nathan. Apparently, Nathan had gotten suspicious when Victoria's pregnancy timeline didn't add up with what she'd told different people. She told him they conceived in Atlantic City, but told me it happened 6 weeks earlier, and told the rich guy it happened even before that. So what's the plan? I asked. Brooke smiled wickedly. We're going to throw a party. A party for what? A gender reveal party, Connor said, for Victoria's fake pregnancy. Are you insane? Just crazy enough to work. We invite everyone, your family, her family, all your mutual friends. Tell them Victoria wanted to share her happy news. Then when she shows up and there's no baby, she'll have to admit she lied in front of everyone who matters. It was absolutely diabolical and completely perfect. I'm in. Let's do this. The party was set for Saturday afternoon. Brooke handled the invitations, telling everyone that Victoria wanted to share some exciting news and that it was supposed to be a surprise for her. We invited both families, all our mutual friends, and even some of Victoria's co-workers. This wasn't going to be some small gathering. We wanted maximum impact. Connor rented a pavilion at the local park and got pink and blue decorations to make it look like a legitimate gender reveal party. Brooke made a cake that said, "Congratulations, Blake and Victoria," in beautiful script lettering. We even hired a photographer to capture what we knew was going to be a very special moment. I was nervous as hell leading up to it, but Connor kept reminding me that Victoria had brought this entirely on herself. She lied about being pregnant to manipulate people, man. Now she gets to face the consequences of her actions. About 50 people showed up to the pavilion. My parents were there, her parents, her sister Sophie, Nathan, friends from work, college buddies. Basically everyone who mattered in both of our social circles. Everyone was genuinely excited to celebrate what they thought was happy news. At 2 p.m. sharp, Victoria walked into the pavilion looking completely confused. "What's all this?" she asked, looking around at all the decorations and people. "Surprise!" Brooke yelled enthusiastically. "It's your gender reveal party." Victoria went completely white. I watched her face carefully and I could see the exact moment she realized what was happening. "My what?" she stammered. "Your gender reveal party for the baby," Brooke continued cheerfully. I watched Victoria's face cycle through panic, anger, and complete desperation as she looked around at all the people staring at her expectantly. There must be some mistake," she said weakly. "No mistake," Connor announced loudly so everyone could hear. "Blake told us all about the baby. We're so excited for you guys." My mom came over and hugged Victoria tightly. "Oh, honey, I'm so happy for you both. I can't wait to be a grandma." Victoria looked like she was going to throw up. "Mrs. Morrison, I think there's been a misunderstanding." "What kind of misunderstanding?" my dad asked, stepping forward with a concerned expression. That's when Nathan stepped forward with perfect timing. "Yeah, Victoria. What kind of misunderstanding? Because you told me the baby was mine." A collective gasp went up from the crowd. You could have heard a pin drop in that pavilion. Victoria's face went from white to red to purple in a matter of seconds. "Nathan, that's not... You told me we conceived in Atlantic City," Nathan continued, his voice carrying across the silent crowd. "But you told Blake it happened 6 weeks ago. Which is it, exactly?" Victoria's mom stood up from her chair, her face a mixture of confusion and growing anger. "Victoria Marie Thompson, what is going on here?" "I can explain," she stammered, but the words weren't coming out right. "Then explain," her dad said, and his voice was ice cold. Victoria looked around at 50 pairs of eyes staring at her, all waiting for an answer. She tried to speak several times, but nothing coherent came out of her mouth. Finally, Brooke stepped forward with her phone in hand. Since Victoria seems to be having trouble explaining, maybe this will help. She started reading from Victoria's DMs with the Atlantic City guy, her voice clear and loud enough for everyone to hear. Messages asking for money for doctor appointments, prenatal vitamins, morning sickness medication, all time-stamped from their Atlantic City trip. "You were scamming that poor man for money," Brooke said, looking directly at Victoria. "Using a fake pregnancy." "That's not..." I wasn't. Victoria tried to protest, but her voice was barely a whisper. Then take a pregnancy test, I said, stepping forward. Right now, prove us wrong. Connor held up a box of pregnancy tests that Brooke had picked up that morning. Clear this whole thing up right now. Victoria looked trapped, like a cornered animal. I don't have to prove anything to you people. Actually, you do, her dad said firmly. You've involved both families in this mess. Take the test. I'm not taking a test in front of everyone, she said desperately. Then admit you lied, I said simply. The crowd was getting restless. People were whispering to each other, pulling out phones to record what was happening. Victoria's reputation was imploding in real time, and everyone was witnessing it. Fine, she screamed suddenly, her voice breaking. Fine, I'm not pregnant. Are you happy now? The silence that followed was absolutely deafening. Then her mom started crying. My mom looked like she'd been physically slapped. Nathan just shook his head in complete disgust. Why? My dad asked, his voice barely controlled. Why would you lie about something like that? Because he ruined my life. Victoria pointed at me with a shaking finger. He canceled our wedding. He humiliated me in Atlantic City. He stole everything from me. I didn't steal anything from you, Victoria. I just stopped letting you steal from me. I never stole anything. Brooke stepped forward again with her phone. Really? Because I have bank statements showing you spent over $3,000 on Blake's credit cards in the month before he canceled the wedding. All on yourself. The crowd gasped again. Victoria's own family was looking at her with disgust now. And let's not forget, Connor added, the $18,000 ring upgrade you tried to buy without telling him. Or the fact that you told the jeweler Nathan would pay for it, I finished. Victoria's sister Sophie stood up, her face red with embarrassment and anger. Victoria, what the hell is wrong with you? Nothing's wrong with me, Victoria shouted back. I deserve nice things. I shouldn't have to settle for some boring guy who won't buy me what I want. And there it was, the real Victoria, exposed in front of God and everyone. Her dad looked like he wanted to crawl into a hole and disappear. Victoria, you need to apologize to everyone here, he said firmly. I'm not apologizing for wanting more out of life. You're apologizing for lying and manipulating people, he said, his voice getting harder. I don't owe any of you anything, she screamed. She stormed off toward the parking lot, but not before Connor called out after her. Hey, Victoria, you might want to find a new place to live. Your dad's been paying your rent, and I bet that's about to change. The look on her dad's face confirmed that Connor was absolutely right about that. After Victoria stormed off, the party actually got significantly better. People started sharing stories about Victoria's entitled behavior that they'd been keeping quiet about out of politeness. Apparently, I wasn't the only one who'd noticed her manipulative tendencies. Everyone had just been too polite to say anything while we were together. Her own family apologized to me profusely for her actions. They seemed genuinely shocked by what she'd done and how she'd behaved. Nathan also apologized for believing her lies and for trying to start trouble with Connor and me. He admitted that he'd been completely manipulated by Victoria's promises of a relationship if he just helped her with various schemes. We all ended up having a genuinely good time despite the drama that had just unfolded. Connor fired up the grill, Brooke brought out the food she'd prepared, and we turned it into an actual party. Just without Victoria, obviously. Her parents stayed and apologized even more profusely for their daughter's behavior. They seemed truly shocked by what Victoria had revealed about herself. Her dad pulled me aside privately. Blake, I had no idea she was like this. I'm cutting her off financially, the apartment, the credit cards, everything. She's going to have to figure out how to be an adult. I told him I appreciated that, but he didn't need to do anything drastic on my account. No, he said firmly. This has been a long time coming. We've been enabling her behavior for years, thinking we were helping her. But we just created a monster. Sophie came over to me as well. Blake, I'm so sorry about my sister. I always knew she was high maintenance, but I didn't know she was this manipulative. She's been lying to our whole family for months. About the pregnancy, about you, about everything. The party wound down around 6 p.m., with everyone still talking about what they'd witnessed and how Victoria had completely destroyed her reputation in front of everyone who mattered in her life. Connor, Brooke, and I cleaned up together afterward. Man, that was even better than I could have imagined, Connor said, loading decorations into his truck. She literally exposed herself. We didn't even have to do anything. I know, right? Brooke added. She just kept digging herself deeper and deeper. The look on her mom's face when she admitted she wasn't pregnant was absolutely priceless. I felt kind of bad for her parents. They seemed like decent people who had just spoiled their daughter too much and were now seeing the consequences of that enabling behavior. Yeah, but they needed to see who she really was, Connor said. Now they can stop enabling her, and maybe she'll actually grow up. Over the next few weeks, things calmed down significantly. Victoria apparently moved back in with her parents for about a week before they kicked her out, just like her dad had promised. According to Sophie, she's been couch surfing with various friends who are getting increasingly tired of her drama and constant need for financial support. Her social media went completely silent, which was probably for the best, given how much damage she'd already done to her reputation. Nathan reached out to apologize again and to thank me for opening his eyes to what Victoria was really like. It turned out that Victoria had been manipulating him for months with promises of a romantic relationship if he just helped her with various schemes and plans. He felt like an idiot for believing her, but I told him not to beat himself up about it. She was genuinely good at manipulation. That's what made her so dangerous to be around. My work situation got back to normal after my boss realized that Victoria was just a bitter ex trying to cause trouble. My parents were embarrassed that they'd believed her lies about gambling addiction and cheating, but I told them it was completely understandable. She was very convincing when she wanted to be. The best part of everything was getting my life back. I realized how much stress and drama Victoria had been bringing into my world on a daily basis. Without her constant demands, manipulation, and financial pressure, I felt like I could actually breathe again. Brooke and I stayed friends, hanging out occasionally but keeping everything platonic. She was dating someone new anyway, a guy who actually appreciated her independence and didn't expect her to be his personal ATM machine. Connor was incredibly proud of how everything had worked out. "I told you she was bad news from day one," he said over beers one night. "You just had to see it for yourself." "Yeah, well, better late than never, I guess. The crazy part is I almost married her." Can you imagine what my life would have looked like? She probably would have divorced you after bleeding you dry in the settlement. You dodged a major bullet, man. He was absolutely right about that assessment. 6 months later, I heard through the grapevine that Victoria was working at some retail job, living with 3 roommates and struggling to pay her bills. Apparently, reality hit her pretty hard when Daddy's money got cut off, and she had to face the real world for the first time. Sophie mentioned that Victoria had tried to contact me a few times, asking if we could talk and maybe work things out. But I had Connor handle those messages. There was absolutely nothing left to say between us. I'd moved on with my life, and she needed to do the same with hers. Looking back on the whole experience, it taught me some incredibly valuable lessons about relationships and recognizing red flags early in the process. The way someone treats money, service workers, and their friends says a tremendous amount about their character. Victoria failed all those tests spectacularly, but I was too blinded by physical attraction and the idea of being in love to see what was right in front of me. Connor was a real friend throughout the entire ordeal. He saw through her act from the very beginning and had my back when things got ugly. That's the kind of loyalty you simply can't buy, no matter how much money you have. Brooke was amazing too. She could have easily stayed out of all the drama, but she stepped up to help a friend and didn't expect anything in return. Those are the people you want in your corner when life gets complicated and messy. The whole situation was incredibly messy and dramatic, but it ended exactly how it should have. Victoria's lies caught up with her. Her family and friends saw who she really was underneath the surface, and I got out before she could do any more financial or emotional damage to my life. Sometimes the trash really does take itself out. You just have to be patient enough to let it happen naturally. I'm in a much better place now, dating someone who actually has her own money and doesn't see me as a walking ATM machine. She's someone who pays for her own drinks and doesn't throw tantrums when I suggest going somewhere that doesn't cost a fortune. It's absolutely amazing how much better relationships can be when both people contribute equally and nobody's trying to manipulate anyone else. The gender reveal party became absolutely legendary among our friend group. People still bring it up at gatherings as the most epic takedown they've ever witnessed in person. Victoria basically destroyed herself in front of 50 people, and we just provided the stage for her to do it on. Connor still has the video on his phone of Victoria admitting she lied about being pregnant. He threatens to post it online whenever she tries to start drama through mutual friends, which keeps her pretty quiet these days. It's like having the ultimate insurance policy against any future nonsense. The whole experience was completely worth it just to see her face when she realized her entire web of lies was falling apart in real time, and there was absolutely no way to talk her way out of the situation. Sometimes justice really is sweet, especially when someone who thinks they're smarter than everyone else gets completely outsmarted by their own arrogance and overconfidence. Victoria thought she could play multiple guys against each other and cash out with the wedding, the ring upgrades, and whatever else she could manipulate out of people. But she seriously underestimated how much people actually talk to each other, and she completely overestimated her own abilities to keep all her lies straight. In the end, karma caught up with her in the most public and humiliating way possible, and I got to walk away with my dignity and my bank account completely intact. Honestly, best breakup ever. Update for those asking about what happened next. I should probably mention that this whole situation taught me to trust my friend's judgment more. Connor saw through Victoria's act immediately, but I dismissed his concerns because I thought I was in love. Now I realize that sometimes people on the outside can see things more clearly than you can when you're emotionally invested. The red flags were always there. The constant forgetting her wallet, the hints about expensive gifts, getting upset about budget-friendly date ideas, the social media obsession with showing off material things. I just chose to ignore them because the physical attraction was strong and I wanted the relationship to work. For anyone dealing with similar situations, trust your gut, listen to your friends, and pay attention to how someone treats service workers and handles money. Those things reveal someone's true character more than anything they say about themselves. Also, don't be afraid to walk away from a bad situation just because you've already invested time and money. The sunk cost fallacy keeps people trapped in terrible relationships way longer than they should be. Sometimes cutting your losses early saves you from much bigger problems down the road. Victoria taught me exactly what I don't want in a partner, which actually made it much easier to recognize good qualities when I found them. So, in a weird way, I'm almost grateful for the whole experience. It was expensive education, but incredibly valuable in the long run. Final thoughts. I know some people might think the gender reveal party was too harsh, but honestly, she brought it entirely on herself. She was lying to multiple people about being pregnant to scam money out of them. That's not just manipulation, it's fraud. She needed to face consequences for her actions, and public embarrassment was a lot better than criminal charges. The fact that her own family cut her off financially after seeing her true behavior tells you everything you need to know about how bad the situation really was. These weren't people who were quick to judge. They'd been enabling her for years and only stopped when they saw the full extent of what she was capable of. Connor and Brooke are still some of my closest friends. Real friendship means having people who will call you out when you're making mistakes and support you when you need to make difficult decisions. I'm incredibly lucky to have people like that in my life. As for Victoria, I genuinely hope she learned something from this experience and became a better person. But that's not my responsibility anymore. I did my part by getting out of a toxic situation and exposing her lies when she tried to drag other people down with her. Life's too short to spend it with people who see you as a resource to be exploited, rather than a person to be loved and respected. Everyone deserves better than that.